Welcome everybody to the briefing event for First of a Kind 2022. It's brilliant to see so many of you here, and we have about 200 people online as well, so hello to everyone in the virtual space. I'm pretty sure most of you know me based on the faces that I can see, but for anyone who doesn't, I'm Daisy Chapman-Chamberlain. I am the rail lead at Innovate UK KTN. Very quickly, just some basic housekeeping. You've all found the bathrooms, they're just outside there. If there is a fire, there's an exit over here, there's an exit over here, the green signs, please follow those. And the meeting point is the Apple store for some reason, which is that way, but people will direct you. Main point, if there's a fire, leave the building. Really pleased to welcome everyone. We've got a really fantastic lineup of speakers and all the support that you're going to need to put in some really exciting bids for the competition this year. And just to remind anyone who hasn't seen, we do have a good application guide webinar tomorrow where we'll be going into some of the really fine detail about what makes up a good bid. So that's online, so you should be able to do that from the comfort of your sofa, which is what I'm planning on doing. So please do join if you want to find out more about the application process. I think most of us know, but First of a Kind exists to support the very best and the most impactful innovations into, it's fair to say, a fairly risk-averse industry. But of course, by that I mean the right kind of risk. So taking a risk to bring in the new innovations that you'll all be able to introduce for us to actually improve services for passengers, for staff, for freight, and everyone else involved in our sector. We're going to go over the themes this year, and Kelvin from Innovate and his team are going to go into a bit more detail shortly, but for now we're going to jump into a video welcome from Jeremy Hotchkiss, who is Deputy Director, Rail Competitions? Not competitions, competitiveness. There we go, I got there in the end. Deputy Director, Rail Competitiveness at Department for Transport.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak at today's First of a Kind briefing event. And I'm sorry that I can't join you in person. My name is Jeremy Hotchkiss, and I'm the Senior Government Official responsible for the First of a Kind programme. I want to start with a few words about the programme itself and about the role it plays in supporting rail innovation. I'll then say something about the aims of the 2022 competition. The railway faces huge challenges after two of the worst years in the industry's history. We need to recover lost revenues and get passengers back on board. But the challenges go far beyond that. With our whole industry strategic plan, we're looking at our ambitions for the railway over the next 30 years. Meeting the needs of customers, both passengers and freight. Delivering financial sustainability so that rail is efficient and value for money. Contributing to the long-term economic growth of the country. Levelling up the economy to reduce regional inequality and bring the union together. And delivering environmental sustainability for the benefit of the UK and the globe. This is a huge challenge, and the transformation of the industry envisaged by the Williams-Shapps plan will be critical. But this will also require a step change in innovation by the rail industry as well. It's right that the industry itself leads in funding and developing its own innovation. However, this doesn't always work as well as it should. And we know that smaller companies with big ideas and promising products often face barriers to market entry. These companies can find it difficult to get the funding and the support that they need to develop and test their products so that they can bring them to market. And this is where First of a Kind comes in. Through First of a Kind, we provide funding and support to help companies trial new technologies on our trains, tracks, and at our stations. Now, while we can't guarantee a buyer for these technologies, through First of a Kind, we can provide the help needed to enable them to compete in the market. We intend to continue this with the First of a Kind 2022 competitions. And with this round of competitions, we're focusing on funding the most pressing issues for the railway today. So as you probably know, there are 3 competitions this year with different themes. The first is low emissions and a greener railway, which will take place in 2 phases. Decarbonisation continues to be a very significant challenge for rail. In our transport decarbonisation plan, we've committed to deliver a net zero rail network by 2050, with sustained carbon reductions along the way. Finding suitable traction technologies will be critical to this. Now, electrification will be part of the story, and in our integrated rail plan, we've made ambitious commitments to electrify in full the Midland Main Line to Sheffield and the Transpennine Line between Manchester and York. But full electrification will not be suitable everywhere. We need to explore not just straight alternatives like battery trains and hydrogen trains, but also to look at how we can combine different technologies to the maximum effect. Like trains that are powered by overhead lines for part of their journeys, that can charge up a battery as they go and then run on battery power for the remainder of their journey. And freight trains that rely on neither overhead wires nor fossil fuels. Now, I'm not currently aware of any freight trains in the world that can run on hydrogen alone, but I know that some very clever people across the Atlantic are looking at exactly that. We're making funding available here because we want to see what our innovators can do here in the UK. Now this leads me to the second competition, which is specifically for challenges in rail freight. The rail industry estimates that rail freight delivers economic benefits for around £2.5 billion per year, including cost savings to industry, environmental benefits and congestion relief. And the government is committed to developing the rail network's capability and its capacity for freight. With this second competition, we want to support the growth of the rail sector and in turn support modal shift on freight from road to rail, delivering environmental benefits by reducing greenhouse gas emissions across the freight sector. The third competition will focus on industry cost efficiency and network.
I don't actually know what to do here. Hang on. Stand by. See? I told you things would pop up. Do we know how to skip ahead on this?
You should be able to click on the bar.
Is that where we were?
I don't know.
Yeah, the bar at the bottom.
Relief. And the government is committed to developing the rail network's capability and its capacity for freight. With this second competition, we want to support the growth of the rail sector and in turn support modal shift on freight from road to rail, delivering environmental benefits by reducing greenhouse gas emissions across the freight sector. The third competition will focus on industry cost efficiency and network.
And we're not quite sure what it is, but it seems to have cut there. So at least you got to hear about the first two themes in detail from Jeremy there. And Kelvin and the Innovate team are going to go into much more detail. So yeah, thank you to Jeremy if he's listening. Sorry about the cut there, but we will go into more detail about theme 3 shortly as well. But we'll move on. And just very quickly to go through the agenda, so you've heard from me. Next, you're going to be hearing from the team at Innovate UK to go into a little bit more detail, obviously focusing in on the third theme now. Then we're going to hear from Maggie Simpson, OBE from Rail Freight Group, Ben Garner from Tarmac, also on freight. We'll have Robin Buchanan-Morgan and David Gator from Rail Delivery Group, Mark Gades from Network Rail, Dan Piner from Southwestern, Ross Wellham from LNER. We'll close, we'll have some lunch, and then we're going to have 6 or 7 elevator pitches, but the whole day as well, lots of opportunities for networking. So please do take the chance to chat to people, and if you want any introductions, you can come and find me, you can come and find Kelvin. We're very happy to introduce you to people. But for now, I will jump straight over to my colleagues at Innovate UK.
So good morning all. I'll lead off. I'm Kelvin Davies from Innovate UK. I bumped into an ex-Network Rail colleague on New Street Station this morning, and he called me Mr. First of a Kind. I'm not sure I quite like that. But we have indeed been delivering first of a kind competitions for Department for Transport for a number of years, and I'm going to be joined by a few of my colleagues in a few minutes, Rhiann, Charlie, and Lydia. But I'd start off by welcoming you. Actually, we weren't sure whether to have a live event. Thank you for voting with your feet and answering that question. That's a really good turnout for an event in Birmingham. So please make the most of the day and let us know if you find it valuable being here in person, because the world has changed since 2 years ago when we last did this. And since then we've delivered everything online, of course. As I said, this is the 6th first of a kind competition that Innovate UK has delivered for the Department for Transport. Jeremy Hotchkiss delivers that budget to us on a regular basis, and we thank the Department of Transport very much for the privilege and the honour of delivering the programme. It's become something of an industry standard in terms of delivering innovation to the railway, and it is about delivering innovation. So as we go through the day, please do bear in mind that the objective is to get technologies onto the railways. If we fail to do that, effectively we've achieved nothing. So there are a number of railway stakeholders here in the room today. Please engage with them. Please benefit from the opportunity to network in person, speak to railway colleagues, find out what they want and address those. And that will lead to a successful competition for us. Daisy's already taken us through the agenda. In this part of the briefing, I'm going to take you through the scope for the competition and a bit of the background. Rhiann is going to take you through some of the details of SBRI, and then I'll hand over to Charlie and Lydia to take you through the application process, which even if you've been through our process before, it has changed a little bit in subtle but important ways. So it is important to understand what you need to do differently this time. Those are the names on the screen. I've introduced them all except for the two most important in a way, which are Mark Cairns and Abby Miller from Department for Transport. We're expecting Mark to be here in the audience today. There's Mark at the back waving. Mark is very shy, but Mark is the programme sponsor from Department for Transport. I'm going to hand over now to Rhiann before I come back up here to take you through some of the specifics about the SBRI competition format.
Thanks, Kelvin. As Kelvin said, this is now the 6th competition we've run, so hopefully SBRI isn't anything new to you guys. Nonetheless, I'm just going to give you a quick few slides on SBRI, how it works, and how it can benefit you guys. So SBRI is a small business research initiative. But actually ignore the S, ignore the B, and to some part ignore the R for this competition. So yes, we do have a slight branding problem. It's not just for small businesses. Actually, SBRI is open to anyone and everyone that can meet the eligibility criteria. So for this competition, we particularly welcome applicants from outside the sector. You know, you can be a not-for-profit, a charity. Anyone and everyone is welcome to join us. It helps government by solving specific challenges that we haven't been able to meet because the challenges aren't readily available in the market. And it also offers you guys an opportunity to work with the UK government, who are the largest procurer in the UK, and win a significant contract with them. We've proven that actually SBRI does benefit businesses. Annual sales generally increase by about 30%, and the benefit cost ratio is also huge with SBRI. So it's pre-commercial procurement. As I said, it's about solving challenges where the solution isn't already readily available. If it was available, we wouldn't be doing this competition, so please don't bring to us anything that already exists on the railway. It requires a lead customer, so Calvin will go through the scope with you, and he will detail further who you must involve in this project. It's focused on outcome-driven solutions, so we've got our 3 themes, and they're the outcomes that we're looking to deliver. It's very well-defined challenges. Again, DfT have set these priorities based on the challenges they know exist in the market. And the best bit, which you'll probably love, it's 100% funded R&D service procurement contract. So there's no match funding. You get all the money provided you deliver what you say you're going to do. So as I said, it's 100% funded. It's a UK implementation of EU pre-commercial procurement. There's a contract that's just issued to the lead applicants. There's no collaboration agreements. It's a really nice, easy process, quick setup. And ultimately, as the lead, you're responsible for delivering the project. You retain all the rights to your intellectual property, and that's the foreground IP developed as part of this project. You do, however, grant the public sector the right to certain third-party licenses. You are encouraged to exploit your IP, otherwise you wouldn't be here. We want to get your products out, we want to see them in the market, and you'll be assessed on this basis. So as I said, it's open to all organisations, no limit on the size or type of the company, everyone is welcome. Particularly companies not currently working in rail sector, research organisations may apply, but you must all be able to demonstrate a route to market. So, in applying to the competition, you're going to be assessed on your ability to commercialise the technology. This is a contract to deliver a specific outcome. So if you're not sure if you can deliver, please don't apply, because you're going to be contractually bound to it and we won't pay you if you don't. So please be sure you can deliver what you've said in your application. You must include VAT, and given the current VAT threshold levels, I'd be surprised if, given the value of the contracts we're awarding, VAT is not included. So please make sure you've sought appropriate advice from the likes of HMRC when it comes to VAT. You must not include profit within your application, and this is really, really important. Because you retain the rights to your intellectual property, costs must be at fair market price. Clearly explain the problem you're looking to solve, how you meet the scope of the project, of the competition, and your target audience and your customers. Once you've been awarded a contract, we can't increase those costs, so they should be accurate as much as you can during your application. And please, please, please familiarise yourself with the contract. It's non-negotiable. We will not be changing any clauses, so please make sure you're happy with it. And that's it from me. I am going to hand back over to Calvin.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rhiannon. So we never know who we're pitching to at these events, whether we're pitching to people we've met before, although I do recognise a lot of faces in the audience, or whether we're pitching to new potential applicants into our competitions. So a quick introduction to Innovate UK is warranted. Innovate UK is one of the 9 research, well, we're not a research council, we sit alongside the other research councils in UKRI, so UK Research and Innovation. We're based in Swindon, but I haven't been there for about 2 years. Because we're largely field workers and we are UK-wide, so that's why we're called Innovate UK. So we represent not only England, but also, of course, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. What do we do? Innovate UK is primarily for one thing and one thing only. It's to drive economic growth for the UK. How do we do that? We allow innovators the flexibility to deliver innovative products in response to our competitions, with a view to those being commercialised and taken up, in our case, by the railways. Our summary slide in a single page, I'm sure this is out of date now because I've seen this for about 4 or 5 years. But the bottom strapline is that since we were conceived in 2007, we've invested 2.5 billion, attracted another 4.3 billion in match funding, and delivered 18 billion worth in benefits to the UK economy, with a return rate of about £6 or £7 per pound invested. So that's the challenge to all the innovators in here. And it's difficult in railways. There's no two ways about it. It is much more difficult in the railways to get a return on your investment. So the target is 6 to 7 times the value of your contracts today. So if you're going to apply for a £400,000 contract, you can work it out for yourselves. Multiply it by 7. That's what we expect back. Otherwise, you're below average. In terms of the scopes, I know you know what these are because that's what's brought you here today, but we'll quickly take you through the scopes of the 3 competitions that Jeremy's already outlined. But I'm going to keep saying what the important thing is. It's to deliver a demonstrator to the railways for one of the 3 themes you see on the screen there that somebody in the railways might witness, might think that's a really good thing. We need to buy that and get it into our business. We're delivering the competition on behalf of the Department for Transport, obviously, and the clue is in the title of the competitions. It's all about demonstrators. Again, looking across the room, many of the faces I see will know the pain that delivering a demonstrator on the railways can sometimes cause, because it's not easy. But that's the whole point. We require teams to do it, because unless you can deliver the capability to demonstrate your technology on the railways, you clearly can't sell it there. So it's all about delivering a demonstrator. So the common competition objectives, common to the 3 themes that we're talking about today, are to deliver a demonstration in a live railway environment. That's obviously for the phase 2 activity if you're interested in the decarbonisation, low emissions theme. You must work with a railway partner. Why do we mandate that? We don't just want to make your lives difficult. Our experience is that that's what exposes you to the challenges on the railway and helps you to deliver a useful demonstration. Rianne's just said, please don't bid into the competition unless you can deliver what you're promising to deliver. It's a contract, you'll have milestones, you have to deliver all of those to get paid. It causes us a lot of grief when teams are overly ambitious. We like ambitious teams, but not overly ambitious. So it causes a lot of pain when teams are overly ambitious and promise to do something that they can't deliver, because we're then accountable to DFT as why the deliverables, which they are, have not been delivered. And a new thing this year is an evaluation activity. Our experience is that in the past, a lot of teams have missed the opportunity, having delivered the demonstration, to effectively measure what the benefits of that are. So what we'd like to have teams think about this year is, once you've delivered it, what can you measure from that demonstration that will actually prove the benefits? Are the customers happy? Are the emissions lower? Are trains more punctual? And we require teams to think and to implement an approach to evaluating the impact of the technology. So that loosely is the one thing that's substantially new for this round of competitions. So the 3 themes, you've already seen them. I'll skim through them. There are 3 themes for the reduced emissions activity. These are reducing emissions and NOx from, and particulate matter from idling diesel trains. One approach to that, of course, is not to have them idling. So please think about what solutions might exist in this space. Passenger trains that can be powered by AC overhead electrification and charge a battery and run in battery-only mode on electrified sections of the route. And critically, note the word freight, battery or hydrogen-powered freight trains. The thinking is from DFT that there's a relatively high number of solutions available for passenger, but not for freight. So as we heard from Jeremy, the focus this year is on decarbonisation of freight trains. I should have explained where these themes come from as well. They're not made up out of thin air. They're derived from a combination of the rail technical strategy, from a steering committee that we convened before we set the scope for a competition, and there are a couple of members of the steering committee are here today, and of course from DFT's stated priorities. For the phase 1 of this competition, you're essentially writing an application and de-risking your future phase 2 activity. So you've got 3 months to work out what you'd like to do as part of a much bigger, much longer phase 2 activity. And the deliverable from phase 1 is a report, a feasibility report, basically saying what you're going to do and saying how you reduce the risks. If you're lucky enough to move to phase 2, you will be required to do what you said you were going to do as part of your phase 1 feasibility study. So again, don't apply for something you can't do, but it's a great opportunity to do something substantial and meaningful for the railways in one of the 3 themes we've outlined. And as we're going to say for all the themes, you must, in your phase 2, deliver a demonstration event. Might be a vehicle running on the track. It might be an associated technology which achieves the competition objectives. And you must do an evaluation activity. So don't just put the vehicle on the track, measure how much the emissions are reduced and the benefits to the overall railway system. Eligibility, my colleagues Lydia and Charlie will take you through some of these as well. You can read this for yourself. As Rianne says, you can be any organisation of any size. You can work alone or with other organisations as subcontracts. The contract goes to a lead. Skipping through, you need to work with an experienced railway organisation, somebody who has the assets that you want to use for your demonstrator. And you may be able to, if you are a railway organisation, you might actually be able to tick all of those boxes already yourself. So there might not be any need to subcontract to achieve that. You must involve a potential integration partner. What do we mean by that? Sadly, we mean an organisation that knows how difficult it can be to integrate things into the railways. Because there's no point in going into this naively thinking it's easy, because it's not. So you need to have a partner who is experienced and knows how to do that, or what the challenges of achieving that are. And critically, again, you have to have a letter of support signed by a senior individual. Now that's changed. We've added the word senior. If you've applied before, you're going to challenge us straight back and say, what does senior individual mean? And that is a difficult one, but we leave it to your judgment what a senior individual in the railway industry is. And that individual needs to provide support to your application. Why do we include the word senior? Because it's very easy to get a letter of support from anybody in an organisation, but if he or she then doesn't have the authority to help you to deliver your demonstration, it's effectively worthless. So please, when you're seeking your letters of support that you need for this competition, approach the right level of seniority in the organisation, and that actually will help us, but more critically, it will help you. In terms of project costs, up to 60,000. Sorry, that was nearly an expensive slip of the tongue. Up to 60,000 for phase 1, leading to a £740,000 phase 2 if you're successful in applying for that. You've only got 3 months. It's going to be fast and furious. There'll be a kick-off meeting and a close-down meeting, and apart from those, we'll see very little of each other. And you need to start by the 1st of October and critically end by the 31st of December. Second theme, rail freight. There's lots of bullet points here which I'm not going to read out. Please browse them for yourselves. These are bullet points focusing on the priorities for rail freight, and we're going to hear from Maggie Simpson from the Rail Freight Group later. Maggie is hopefully going to make herself available to speak to you if you want any more details about these. But there are a lot, and they are derived, again, as I say, from the priorities for the rail freight industry. So that's slide 1. Slide 2, I'll pause there and let you scan it to remind yourselves what are there. But hopefully the reason you're here is that you've latched onto one or more of these bullet points, and that is what has attracted you to the briefing event and to the competition. And the final page on rail freight. There's some interesting challenges here, I would say, things we haven't seen before in our competitions. In terms of eligibility, the top box is exactly the same as I outlined for the decarbonisation theme. Again, you need a letter of support, you need an integration partner, you need to partner with a potential customer organisation. The big difference, these are 12-month projects. So this, again, is an extension on the conventional 9-month first-of-a-kind projects that we have delivered. We know that they cause some challenges to industry to deliver, frankly, what have been ambitious demonstrators in only 9 months. This year, because we're covered by a 3-year spending review provision, we can extend to 12 months. But I would stress, it is 12 months, not 13, not 14, not 15. So the luxury of those extra 3 months we take very seriously. Between 150k and 400k, by all means apply for a smaller project. That might give you a tactical advantage in terms of portfolio management. We might be able to fund a smaller project, whereas we can't fund a larger one. So by all means apply for 150k. And as briefly mentioned, up to 12 months, and again need to start by the 1st of October and finish in September next year. Final theme. This is an interesting theme in many ways. This is a departure from our more traditional gadget type approach to requesting innovation. The theme, cost efficiency and performance priorities for a reliable railway, has been derived from work done through the rail delivery group, and Robin's going to talk through these themes later. These are priorities which have been identified by the railway industry as potentially small game changers that could make a big difference to the level of service provided on the railways. So precisely what we want at this moment in time when passenger numbers are still down and we're trying to get them back up. For that reason, it's quite a complicated theme, and I'm not going to brief in detail on it. Suffice to say, there are 7 overarching themes, and in each of these 7, there are a set of bullet points highlighting precisely what we're looking for. But loosely, it's planned resilience and recoverability. I'm not sure these buzzwords are obvious what we mean. That basically means that the timetable when it's planned is already robust, and that when it's perturbed, so something goes wrong, as it naturally does, it can recover more rapidly. Basically, to remove a few of those annunciator headlines, delayed, or cancelled on station departure boards. Ancillary plan to deliver right time, right traction from depot. We as customers don't always see this, but often when a train is cancelled, it's because the wrong unit was at the depot exit. Or there was some aspect of the unit that wasn't serviceable, that the unit couldn't be entered for service. Again, talk to Robin and the team if you want more details on this. Deterioration in network response to external events, including trespass and suicide, self-evident, and operating staff availability. Again, self-evident, working with the rostering functions in the railway organisations to make sure that the right staff are in the right place at the right time. Weather seasons and climate change, more efficient use of access for infrastructure maintenance. So when the railway is closed, how can we do more maintenance in the same time? And we had a bit of a debate about the last one. I'll read it. It's removal of organisational or systemic blockers to deployment of performance initiatives. The railway industry is famous for having lots of blockers to innovation. So we've left this in after some debate because we're not sure quite what the responses would be. So here's a challenge to UK industry. What can you do in terms of technology or a product to help the railway industry to help itself? And we left it in because we didn't know what the responses might be. So please don't dismiss that one. It's a slightly softer bullet point compared to the others. It's not immediately obvious to us what the black box product might be, or maybe it doesn't need to be a black box product. We don't know. So get the applications in against that one and think about what we could do. More details on that theme is in the online scope documents. Eligibility, exactly the same in terms of the first bullet points. The difference here is that these are short projects. We don't think these need to be as labour intensive. You have 6 months to deliver these and proportionately less budget between 150,000 and 250,000. Again, starting by October the 1st and finishing by the end of the financial year on the 31st of March next year. Back to speaking about all the themes. Stuff we won't, it's a bit negative, isn't it? But stuff we won't fund is things that can't be exploited by the railway industry. You might have a great idea, but if it won't fit into the railway system, sadly it has no commercial future, and we would not fund that application. We're looking for a change in the level of innovation, obviously. Another slight change, we're now looking for well-developed technology at rail industry readiness level 5 or above. If you're not familiar with that rating scale, please appraise yourself through the links that are in the competition documents. We want low technical risk. We do need a demonstration, as we've said, and again, a slight change, we need this evaluation activity to assess the differences that your innovation has made as part of your demonstration. Obviously, you need to be eligible in terms of costs. We don't want to fund things that are already funded. And we do have a ratification exercise with particularly Rail Safety Standards Board to check that similar applications haven't already been funded. We don't want to fund things that are already under commercial agreements to deliver the technologies. And please have a look at the final bullet point. If there are potential negative aspects of what you are delivering, we need to have you to consider and address those. We've mentioned the requirement to have a railway asset owner. We want you to work with an experienced railway organisation and a railway organisation that has the potential to be a customer with an integration partner, and again, the letter of support from a senior individual. This is really, really important, and you need to upload that with your application. If you've previously been funded, you won't be funded again. This looks like the same. slide is the previous one. Anyway, there's lots of duplication on there. Please browse this at your leisure and appraise yourself of what's in here. Rianne's already mentioned the requirement to meet VAT regulations. We would expect you to be adding 20% VAT to every invoice. Some teams are confused. That doesn't mean that when you're charged VAT for something, you pass that charge on to us. It means that you need to add 20% to your bills to Innovate UK because you are providing a service to Innovate UK. And I'm going to hand over now, correct, to Lydia and Charlie, who will take you through a bit more detail about the types of organisations we fund and then the application process itself.
Hi there, thank you for listening to me. I'm Charlie, the Competitions Manager at Innovate UK. So as you can see behind me, these are the type of organisations that Innovate UK fund, and this is generally across all competitions, as Rianne's already mentioned. With SBRI, you can be an organisation of any size, so that includes research organisations, charities, and businesses as well. You have to work alone, but you can have you can have subcontractors, and I'll go on to that a little bit later. So there are key dates for this competition. It's important that the submission deadline is at 11 AM on the dot. IFS will automatically close, so at 11:01 applications cannot be submitted. We strongly recommend that you start your application as soon as possible, as early as possible, because there'll be high traffic of calls and emails to customer services on the day that it does close. Please contact customer support in advance if you have any difficulties with submitting through IFS. So going on to the Innovation Funding Service, I'm going to talk you through how to apply. I'll try and keep this as interesting as possible through this process. So when you search for your competition, you can just search through SBRI or for first of a kind. When you click apply, you'll be directed here. You will need to click on the competition to see a tabbed view of the eligibility criteria, scope, key dates, and information about how to apply. When you are happy to apply, simply click Start New Application. So you will need to create an account on IFS, or if you already have an account, you may simply just log in. When creating an account, you can use the Companies House lookup to search for your organisation to save typing in the name and address manually. If you are not on Companies House, you can manually enter your information. Just to let you know, if you don't have a Companies House number, it does not stop you from creating an account. So after you've created an account, you'll be asked about your project details. So you'll be asked about your applications team. This includes contributors. You may invite colleagues from your own organisation to help you complete your application. Your application details includes title, timescales, innovation area, and previously submitted application, so that's just a yes/no answer. Who made you aware of this competition? So you'll have a category to select about who made you aware. You can only click one. And how long has your organisation been established for? So select a category to state how long your organisation has been established for, and again, you cannot choose more than one. Okay, so going on to project details, we would like to know what your organisation's primary area of focus is. So select a category. You cannot choose more than one. We ask for information on equality, diversity and inclusion. We collect and report on our equality, diversity and inclusion information to address underrepresentation in business and innovation and ensure equality and diversity across all of our activities. We'll ask for a project summary, so this involves providing a short summary of your project and describes how it meets the scope. We use this to send to our assessors to give them a brief overview of your project and your public description. So we will publish this if your project is successful, and this is word for word, so please do not use any commercially sensitive information during this. And then we will ask you to choose a theme that best describes your project. So here are the application questions for first of a kind. This is for low emissions and a greener railway. You will be able to find this under the tab section 2, which is the questions, and the apply tab. Please note there is much more detailed guidance when you apply. This is just a very high level overview. Questions 1, 4 and 6 allow you to put in an appendices should you want to, and then question 5 and 8 are mandatory. Appendix, that is. I won't stay very long on this slide because it's exactly the same for rail freight and the same with the appendices as well. The only one that differs is the cost efficiency performance priorities for a reliable railway. The only difference to this is that we include a themes question that is unscored on this, so that changes the number of appendices. So we'll have questions 6 and 9 had a mandatory appendix. So I'm now going to go on about entering your application finances. There's quite a lot of detail in here, so please do use CSS, our customer services, or rewatch this briefing presentation again for further information should you get stuck on the finances. So, under labour, you need to enter the role within your project, gross annual salary, the number of staff and days to be spent on the project. IFS will then automatically calculate your total costs. If you have multiple people in the same role, on the same average salary, please enter this into the role within the project field. If an employee is part-time, then you should enter their costs as a full-time equivalent. You can adjust the working days per year from the default if it's different to your project. If your application is awarded funding, you will need to keep into account all of your labour costs. So you must keep timesheets and payroll records, and this must show the actual hours worked by the individual and paid by the organisation. Okay, so I'm going to go on to overheads. So we define overheads as additional operational expenses, incurred directly as a result of the project. This could include additional costs for administrative staff, general IT, rent and utilities. We class indirect costs or administration overheads as those costs associated with the back office, such as finance or HR, whose primary function is to support the running of a business but not necessarily the project. They can only claim a portion of their time and their work needs to be additional to the delivery of the project, not business as usual. Typically, these projects are not directly related to a particular project or service production. Direct overheads are a cost associated with staff directly working on the project. So, for example, this could include laptops, desks, or office facilities. We supply a simple form in which you can list out each type of direct overhead together with the methodology or basis of an appointment to this particular project. Again, if these overheads would not be incurred if the project did not happen. So going on to material costs, you'll need to enter and describe what materials you intend to use for the project and the volume and the cost. The materials must be listed, must be project specific. Software that you have already purchased specifically for use during the project may be included. If you already own the software, the only additional costs which are incurred and paid during your project can be eligible. For example, installation, training, or customization of technologies. Materials must be associated, companies or subcontracted that must be listed at cost. This excludes any profit element or margin. Any items that would usually depreciate as per your company's policy should be listed in capital usage, which I'm going to go on to now. So capital equipment usage, here you'll need to describe how you are using the equipment and whether it's new or existing, the new purchase cost and how long you are depreciating it over, and the residual value at the end. These calculations must be in line with your company's accounting practices. So going on to subcontractors, if your cost is going to be significant for subcontractors, then you will need to justify who, why, and what you need them for, both here and in your application. You can use subcontractors from outside the UK, but you must justify why you cannot use a UK provider. Cheaper cost is not an accepted reason. If you use a parent or sister company, please ensure you list cost and do not include profit. So going on to travel and sustenance, here you will include things such as essential meetings that need to happen during the project. You cannot include any sales or marketing activity as this is ineligible, as well as things like annual trips to headquarters. Travel costs must be economy travel only. You should be prepared to provide a breakdown of these costs in the project finance if the reviewer asks for more detail. For example, they might require you to split up a trip into sustenance, accommodation, and travel components. So going on to other costs, so please check the finance guides for what costs can be included here. If you are unsure, then do not hesitate to contact our customer support. Any other costs which don't fit the previous categories, for example, training which directly attributes to the project, licensing new technologies, and please ensure that there is no double counting and all costs must be justified. So going on to VAT, once you have completed the other cost categories, you'll be asked to confirm whether you are VAT registered. If you say yes, IFS will automatically add on VAT at 20%, so we will automatically do that for you. If you are not VAT registered, then you can quote without VAT, but please note that you're not able to add on VAT later on. So here we have, at the end of once you put your finances in, you will get a project cost summary. So this is a summary about what your project costs will add up to. It's quite a useful tab because of the eligibility criteria for each strand of this competition. So for low emissions and greener railway, this should be no more than £60,000. For rail freight, this must be between £150,000 and £400,000. And for cost efficiency and performance priorities for reliable railway, this must be £150,000 to £250,000. The next section will ask you about your organisation. You need to select your organisation size and enter your turnover for the last financial year and the number of full-time employees at your organisation. Going on to payment milestones. This section you must enter each milestone and the deliverable information. Where appropriate, link the milestone with a payment request. The milestones can mark completion of a major phase of work, and you can choose to create a milestone to indicate a big task, deliverable, or more. The month at which you want to set your milestones may vary depending on your project, your organisation, and other factors. The information that you will provide here will form your preferred payment schedule. It's really important to note with milestones that you must record them as accurately as possible during the application phase. Any inaccurate reporting here will hold up your award potentially if you are successful. So this is information that you can include in your milestone template, so details of any work packages with a clear description of the activities taking place at each milestone, the month that each milestone will be completed, clear and distinct deliverables from each milestone, and you must be able to evidence to confirm you've completed the milestone in full, success criteria for each milestone, noting that it must be clearly relatable to work packages, deliverables, and must be measurable within reason. Cost for each milestone, and do not cluster your milestones together even if they incur during the same period. We need to separate deliverables and costs on each milestone. So I'm just going to leave this up on the screen for a moment. This is an example of a worked milestone. It's important to know that we cannot tell you what to put in your milestones as this is unique to your own project. So terms and conditions. Before you can submit your application, you must agree to the draft terms and conditions for this procurement competition. Please do read through them. As Rhiannon has said, they will differ from others that you've agreed to before. And if you're successful in your application, you must sign a final contract with the funding authority, which may include additional details agreed between you and that funding authority. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Lydia to talk about submitting your application.
Thank you very much. So, we tell you this again and again and again. You do not have to submit your application early, but if you don't, you and the other 500 people submitting it at the same time are all submitting it at the same time. Our system can cope with that, so it's up to you to, if you want to submit a minute before 11, we suggest you don't. If you have a Wi-Fi problem, if your computer turns off, if you spelled something wrong, you can't log in, that is your problem, I'm afraid. So please make sure that everything is ready to go. Please make sure that your Wi-Fi signal is strong. If there's a problem at our end, obviously you would not be penalised for that. If there is a problem at your end, then I'm afraid that is a problem at your end, and there is nothing we can do about it. So please, if you are having a problem, do get hold of our customer support service. If you've registered a problem before the deadline, and it is truly a problem, we will make sure that your application gets through. But if you realise at 11:01 you have a problem and you tell CSS, we can't help you. So as soon as you have any issues at all, please call or email them, and then that will be registered as to when you did that. So you can edit a submitted application. This is a newish function. So if you put your application in and you submit it, and then suddenly you realize you've done something wrong or you want to change something, you can now go in, reopen, edit, and resubmit. The thing to remember to do here is to resubmit, because people go in and they edit and they don't press that final button. So anything you change, if you change a question, you'll then have to confirm the answer to that question. If you've changed your finances, you need to confirm every single section that you have made changes in and then resubmit your application. If you submitted it a week early and then you changed something and didn't submit it, again, that is a you problem. So please make sure that your application is submitted before the deadline. We really labour this point. It is really very important. So you've managed to do that, you've completed everything, and you've submitted it on time. It will go to assessment. So we have hopefully a whole video here to show you.
Innovate UK uses independent assessors to ensure that the funding application assessment process is fair and transparent. Before an assessor can assess for us, Innovate UK will verify their expertise and skills. Once verified, they will become part of a pool of assessors drawn from both business and academia who are industry experts across all innovation areas. All assessors must sign confidentiality agreements, declare any conflicts of interest, and attend an assessor induction session. Only then can they undertake assessment work on behalf of Innovate UK. Applications that meet the competition eligibility criteria will be sent to a maximum of 5 assessors, who will independently assess the content of your application using a scoring matrix. Innovate UK are looking for novel solutions that address the challenges outlined in the competition brief. Our assessors will score each section of your application and provide written feedback based on their individual interpretation of your project idea. It is important that you include all the relevant information in your proposal, as the assessors will base their assessment on the information provided. Our assessors are unable to contact you if anything is unclear or missing from your application form, nor can they ask anyone else to review an application in their place or give another opinion of their assessment. Innovate UK and its assessors will handle your application with the strictest of confidence, and data protection rules will be adhered to at all times. We also ensure the anonymity of our assessors, and assessor names will not be disclosed within the feedback provided at the end of the assessment process. The competition brief and guidance for applicants provides helpful advice on how to complete and submit your application. We strongly encourage applicants to read these along with the competition scope and eligibility criteria before applying for funding. Innovate UK is committed to making the process as straightforward, fair and transparent as possible, ensuring that the very best applications make it through to the project stage. For further information and support, please visit www.innovateuk.ukri.org.
Okay, so that went so well. Here's another video.
After the independent assessment process has been concluded, Innovate UK carries out a number of steps to moderate the assessor scores and make sure the final selection for funding is fair and transparent. First, we check for outliers in the assessor scores. We may choose to remove any scores that appear unjustified or unsupported by the comments provided by the assessors. Next, we will look at the assessor's answers to the final recommendation questions, which check whether an application is in scope and worthy of funding. For an application to be considered for funding, they must receive a majority vote from the assessors on both of these questions. Finally, we will check the minimum quality threshold, which ensures that only innovative, high-quality applications are considered for funding. Typically, this is a score of 70% or above. Once the 3 key checks are complete, we list the applications in ranked order with the highest scoring application at the top. This is known as the panel sheet. Innovate UK takes 2 approaches when it comes to allocating funding. a top-down approach, where funds are allocated to applications from the top down until the competition budget is reached. Alternatively, a portfolio approach can be used, where applications are selected to suit a specific spend profile for a competition. The competition brief will specify if a portfolio approach will be used. Finally, the recommended list of applications is then presented to Innovate UK's Funders Panel for approval. The Funders Panel will review the recommendations in line with the competition scope. Once approved, applicants are notified on the outcome and the assessor's feedback is made available. Feedback is intended to be constructive and may contain conflicting comments due to the assessor's individual interpretation of your project idea. Unfortunately, there is no right of appeal against the assessor feedback, and neither Innovate UK nor its assessors are able to enter into further communication. Some of our competitions include a two-stage application process, which could include a second-stage written application or an interview panel. And some competitions may follow a non-standard assessment approach. The competition brief will provide full details. For more information on the assessment process, please visit the Support and Advice for Applicants section of the Innovate UK website.
For more information on the assessment process, please visit the Support and Advice for Applicants section of the Innovate UK website.
Okay, so as you heard in the video, that your applications are assessed by multiple assessors. They are drawn from both industry and academia. So they always tell us that what they want is clarity, detail, justification, and to see that you have presented a viable opportunity for growth, and that it's an exciting innovation, and that public funding will make a real difference. Also that you have the right people and the right approach to run this project and to exploit the results at the end. As Charlie mentioned, next to each question there is detailed guidance. It will tell you what to put in your answer to each of the questions. You can see the questions in detail on the How to Apply tab before you've even started. And once you get in, next to every question there is a guidance section. So answer the questions that are asked in the guidance. Even if you have an incredible idea, if you don't answer the questions, then you won't score very well. Make sure the application reads well. You want to keep the assessors engaged. They are reading a lot of these, so you want to get them excited about your idea. How will yours stand out against all of the other ones that they are also reading? So as mentioned in the video, we do check the scores and the feedback to make sure that it is fair and it follows our scoring guidelines. If we believe that a score is unfair, then we can remove it. We will check that the feedback backs up the score. We will look at the whole project in detail. We can remove it as an outlier and your total score would be adjusted, but please be aware we can remove high outliers as well as low outliers, so your total score may go up or down. Because this is done outside of the system, when you get your results back, you will see the score with the outlier included, and you will see all of the feedback. So you will always see 5 sets of feedback for the question, even if one was removed as an outlier. So again, you get the feedback from each individual assessor. It's intended to be constructive. We ask them to highlight both the strengths and any weaknesses in any of the questions. And you might find that the feedback disagrees with other feedback. They all work independently. Assessor 1 might love your project, Assessor 5 might hate your project. We don't take one over another. That's why we have it assessed multiple times, so it is a fair assessment. So when you get to the end and you get your feedback back, you will get a notification saying it's available, and if you log into IFS, you'll be able to see it on your dashboard, and it will look like this. So you will have the average score for each question, that's out of the 5 assessors, but you will see the individual written feedback from each one of those assessors. So there will be a single score for the question, but 5 written sets of feedback. So there are interviews, and if you are invited to progress to the interview, you can bring 3 people to attend. You will have 10 minutes to present a maximum of 10 PowerPoint slides. Videos, embedded links are not allowed in the slides. There's a 30-minute Q&A session which the interview panel will lead. Before you get to your interview, you will have an opportunity to respond to your initial feedback. So if you're invited to interview, that initial feedback will be released. You can read through that and you can create a response to feedback document which you would upload to IFS, which the panel will read. So the panel will have seen the application, they would have seen the original feedback, your response to feedback, and your presentation, because we would ask you to send that in beforehand. So by the time you get to interview, the panel is completely familiar with your project, the feedback, your response to the feedback, and what you're going to present. So if you've managed to get through all of that, you will either be successful or unsuccessful. So if you're unsuccessful, we hope that you use the feedback to develop your idea and maybe you can apply into another competition. If you are successful, you will be assigned a delivery executive and they will guide you through the project setup process. You have 30 days to complete this. This will involve contact details for your project team, details about your project, bank details, VAT registration details, and completing setup. If you don't complete everything within this time, then your offer of contract may be withdrawn. You will be asked to put contact details in. Please make sure that these are correct and that somebody is at the other end checking whatever details you put in. If you put in an email address and that person goes on holiday for a month, this is our only way of communicating with you. It'll be through IFS and through those email addresses. So please, whatever details you put in for contact, make sure somebody is checking to see if you have any contact from us. So project setup, as said, everything will be through IFS. You need to provide your bank details, your updated milestone register, and a signed version of the contract. So projects are paid quarterly in arrears for your milestones achieved in that quarter. So obviously this may be uneven, depending on what your milestones look like. Every project will be different. So if you have any questions at all after today, this is the number and the email address for our customer support services. They are open from 9 to 5. Remember this, if you are having a problem with submitting, if you are having IFS problems, anything at all, please get hold of them as soon as possible. And then it'll be registered that you have raised a query here. The KTN, here's their website, and then Innovate's website. So if you go to the competition page, you could even Google the name of the competition, it will get you there. There's a huge amount of information there. There's supporting information, as I said, there's how to apply, tells you every single question, details of the scope, links to all of the themes, everything. You can read everything that you need before you even start your application. But any questions at all, call or email the customer support services. And that is it from me.
Thank you. We do have time for a couple of questions. Does anyone have any that they want to put to the Innovate team?
The slides talk about a total budget, and there are obviously certain other criteria for each project. Is there an allocation per theme, or is it purely a portfolio approach?
It depends which theme you apply into, Mike. So it is likely that if the portfolio approach, if it came out that all of the rail freight projects, for instance, addressed the same theme, it is likely that we would distribute the portfolio to address more themes. That's very unlikely to happen. It's more pertinent probably to the low carbon theme, where it is true there's likely to be a strong desire to fund, let's say, one project from each of the three themes.
There was another question, just, yeah.
Graham Blake, Crosstane, this is just a quick one. How long will it take to do the assessments in terms of delivering what the projects will be after we've submitted them?
Well, the assessment normally takes, let's say, two to 3 weeks from when the competition closes. Question in return, why would that affect anything from the applicants?
Well, it's going to affect people on holiday, for one thing. So you're talking about the emails and not being able to contact people.
You won't be contacted.
And timelines for starting. That's what it will affect.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you won't be contacted during the assessment process, so there's no clarification required at that point. It's the next stage that applicants might be involved in would be the interviews.
Yeah, it's just about when the results will come out, really.
Yeah.
And then it kicks off. Okay, thank you.
Yes, correct. The team are reminding me that the dates page does tell you everybody, successful and unsuccessful applicants, will all hear on the same day, which was 25th of July. Yeah, it's in the competition documents.
When does phase 2 of the first theme start?
Well, that's a good question. So there's roughly a 3-month hiatus between the end of the projects, which is where the application process will progress. So I haven't got the details in front of me. It's either 2 or 3 months to reapply. Correct. Yeah.
Fab. I'm afraid I know we've got other questions. We don't have time. Unfortunately, we have to move on to our other speakers, but obviously everyone is staying here. Kelvin will be in the room. You can catch him and bombard him later, I promise. But for now, I would like to hand straight over to Maggie Simpson, OBE, Director General at Rail Freight Group, to go into a bit of freight detail.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you, Kelvin. I've got pieces of paper on the floor because I'm very old-fashioned. Look at that. There we go. Right. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I am here throughout, so please do come and ask me any questions about freight. Please don't ask me any questions about the application form. I've been having an anxiety attack just looking at it, and all I've got to do is my tax return. So please come to Kelvin on that. But let me just talk a little bit about freight. Freight has been engaging with the first of a kind programme for a number of years now, a number of successful applications. Last time, Mike at the back there was one of them, and there are a number of other ones as well. So it's really great to be part of the application, part of the funding this time, particularly with a theme of its own. I just want to say one thing about Theme 3, which is that the projects and programmes that are listed in Theme 3, if you're looking at those, don't forget that freight runs on the same railway as passenger. So if you're talking about performance or use of possessions or access windows, do think about freight in your head, even if it's not part of your programme, because we share the same tracks. So I won't say any more about Theme 3, but just be conscious of that. Kelvin and colleagues have already shared the list of bullet points that are in the freight element of this competition, and I don't propose to go through them line by line either. What I would say is I don't disagree with any of them. But what I thought I'd just do is try and put a bit of overarching context around why those are some of the themes that are in there, what's happening in freight, and the kind of areas that might therefore be interesting. And I've put this into 3 areas, she says. There we go. First of all, growth. So over the last 2 years we've come through the pandemic, freight's had a bit of a different journey to passenger. Obviously it was very, very difficult at times during the pandemic, but what it's really brought is a huge focus in industry on supply chains, supply chain resilience, sustainability and mode shift. And there are companies out there really hungry to do more on rail freight for rail freight growth, and they are coming and talking to the rail freight industry in ways that they hadn't done so before. And we've seen, as you've probably seen, press stories with people like Tesco's and others making a huge amount more use of rail freight, indeed even delivering to my store in South London with rail containers nowadays, which makes me very excited, as you can imagine. But in terms of the competition then, things which help the rail freight industry to grow sustainably and at pace, but in a way that works, are really important. I've just put some things up there which are the things that I know are, things my members are talking about. How do we get new customers onto rail? What about services that are multi-customer? So a lot of rail freight is one customer, one train. How do we broker multi-party services in a way that shares the risk effectively as commercial? How do we become more effective, more cost efficient, so we can offer a cheaper, better product to customers? How do we improve customer service? How do we make the best use of network capacity? Customers want trains to run at the time that suits their supply chains. I'm afraid that isn't always the same time as it suits the railways. So how do we balance that more effectively? Managing engineering access to support freight is part of that. And also exploiting new markets. So parcels on passenger trains I know is talked about a lot, but what other new markets are out there that could come to rail that aren't on rail today? So some of the themes you're seeing are around that. How do we grow rail freight, get more goods on rail? Sorry. There we go. We will get there. Let's do that. That's not happening either. There we go. Look at that. Training on IT, that would be a great one. Right, sustainability. Now, I know that Jeremy in his slide talked about battery and hydrogen trains. So let me just say 2 words on those, but then I want to talk about sustainability more. Because we do know that there are battery and hydrogen trains on trial in other countries in the world. There's a lovely hydrogen train running around in Australia. It's pulling coal. You'd kind of think that probably they got the wrong end of the stick, but hey, it's happening. The challenge for the UK is, can we make trains which run on battery or hydrogen at 75 miles an hour in a mixed traffic railway and with a constrained loading gauge and with a constrained length? So in the US, when they do it, they just chuck some hydrogen trains on, and because their trains are already 2 miles long, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, but in the UK, it does matter. So there's a piece about commercial viability. There's also a piece about when would the market be in a position to make an investment in an untested, unproven technology, and frankly, how do we get the battery charged and the hydrogen out to all the places that rail freight goes, particularly off the core network? So I would think, if you are interested in that theme, to think about it quite broadly, that sort of dual fuel, that distribution, the network of how you'd charge, source, etc. is really, really relevant on that one. But actually for me, when I'm talking about sustainability, we've talked about modal shift already in the growth piece, but what is it that is in the broadest sense of sustainability that matters in rail freight? Part of that actually isn't necessarily about what we do in 2040 or 2050, although that's important. It's about what we do in 2025. You know, how do we get the next wave of emissions out? How do we do something more today? Because our customers want more low carbon solutions today. So now matters a lot as well. Retrofit, modifications to existing equipment, small changes that save carbon, low cost implementation. The other bits of sustainability, noise, waste, circular economy, biodiversity, these are areas which are really in their infancy in the way that rail freight operations are happening at the moment. Recycling of old assets. You know, the European production of wheel sets, 20% of that was in a factory in Ukraine which doesn't exist anymore, tragically. So recycling of components, maybe that's next year's story. So things like that that sit in that sustainability space really matter. How do we operate in a more low carbon way? How do we run a network in a way that makes less emissions, reducing idling, for example? And electrification, you know, one of the big challenges of running rail freight on an electrified network is there isn't enough power in the overheads. So if the trains could take less power, or we could more cost effectively get more power in, that would help us use those assets which are available today. And then sort of modernising the way we operate. You know, the railways, as Kelvin said, are pretty traditional. I think Steve's here. Steve tells me he has to fill out a form that says how many air raids he's sat through. He has to put 0 in that every week, or maybe he doesn't anymore, but he did for most of his career. So we are a traditional organisation. So how do we modernise the way that we operate in our terminals, in yards, in sidings? Workforce safety, you know, not trips, slips, hazard backs. How can we kind of help in that space? Maintenance practices and scheduling is really important. So remote monitoring, sensor detection. You know, is the train checked? Well, the trains are checked, but could we do that in a way that doesn't, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean walking around it? Equipment and assets, better use of those, and life, you know, extending lifetime. And also an area that isn't really talked about at all is how we work in a possession. You know, that comes up a little bit, but you know, freight locos are in possessions all weekend, often pulling ballast trains, engineering services and things like that. Not an area that's looked at, but where it's probably right for some innovation. Okay, a few notes from me then about, you know, sort of shaping up competition bids. So rail freight's about 10% of UK railways, and I say that because it means there aren't many of us. So we will all, you know, there are people here from the freight operating companies, and we are really, really keen to help. But I just say there's a lot fewer of us than there are on the passenger railway, so bear that in mind. And secondly, it is completely in the private sector. I know Jeremy on his slide talked about our trains. The freight trains are not DFT's trains. They are in the private sector. It's a commercial-facing business, really high focus on cost and efficiency, and the link to commercial viability is something you really need to work on, I think, to get those bids over the line. And it is happening. We're seeing it in those products that are coming through, but that's there. These are obvious, but I get asked a lot. Freight trains do not have seats, apart from the drivers, Wi-Fi, because the containers are not watching Netflix, or toilets. Maybe they should for the driver, but they don't. You know? So, those are things which are pretty obvious. They also, at the moment, don't have GPS. So there are things like that which you might expect to see on a passenger train that are not on a freight train. And then most importantly, I think, remember that rail freight is much more than just me and the train operators. I think Ben's up next. Ben represents one of the biggest on-rail customers. But when you are looking for that rail operating partner, that asset owner, ports own their own terminals, quarries, businesses often own their own wagons. There are lots of people in rail freight who are asset owners. They are part of that rail freight infrastructure. And I've spoken to my board, and they represent businesses right across there, and they are really keen to engage in innovation, digitisation, technology. And even if you can't make it work for a first-of-a-kind bid, please do bear that in mind. And also bear in mind that if your business is selling or innovating in technology, if it works on a train, it might also work on a crane. So perhaps not for today, but there are probably bits of the rail freight infrastructure that might be of interest to you in general terms, because it is, you know, we're all tied together by using rail, but actually we touch lots of parts of the industrial economy. So just remember that when you're thinking about it. Okay, some contacts and information. I think Ben is going to talk a little bit more about the Rail Freight Terminals of the Future project, which is helping to kind of bring innovators and rail freight together. Bob, give us a wave. Rail Forum is over there, and that is it's their project, but I've put the link online there. We've been helping to support and promote, but I can't take the credit because it's everyone else's work. So, but do have a look at that. That's my email there. There's a link there to our Rail Freight Group handbook, and yes, that is a typo in the link. The link has a typo, so please don't correct it, else you won't get to the right place. And yes, I have tried to get that fixed, and I've failed, so I'll have to go back to that. And then I've just listed there the names of the main freight operating companies, but as I've said, you know, there are other people out there in rail freight who may very well be interested in partnering. So that was it from me. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I'm really excited about the freight theme actually in this one, because Maggie pointed out quite rightly at our exhibition, for any of you who were there last month, we do put a lot of focus on passenger, and freight does sometimes get neglected, so I'm really pleased that we've got that focus in this competition. So I'd like to stick with the theme and hand over to Ben at Tarmac. Where are you, Ben? Oh, there you are. Straight over.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Ben Garner. I'm Rail Contracts Manager for Tarmac. I'm also, for my sins, now our net zero lead for our logistics department, which I'll go on to in a minute. So, who are Tarmac? So we're the leading materials supplier in the UK. We're owned by the wider CRH group, who I always describe as the Irish version of Tarmac. They're the biggest in Europe and in the United States as well, so we're a fairly large business. We've got about 7,500 people. We have quarries, we have ships dredging the English Channel of sand and gravel, and we've got asphalt plants, ready-mix concrete plants, precast concrete plants, all that kind of stuff that goes to build the modern city and the modern town. In terms of, why am I here speaking to you today? Rail capacity. So you can see on the map there we have an absolutely ginormous rail footprint in the UK. We have a model where, if you think about where kind of raw materials for construction come from, they tend to be in pretty rural areas and they're needed in urban areas. So we tend to have a model where we have a big quarry in somewhere like Buxton in the Peak District. We put the aggregate that we take out the ground there on a train, and we take it down into, say, the London area where it gets made into ready-mix concrete. It goes into asphalt, it could go into HS2 and all sorts of other things. So our rail terminals tend to be either huge quarries with lots and lots of lines, or they tend to be a tiny little site on a postage stamp in the middle of London with a linked ready-mix concrete plant where we produce the final product and send it out kind of on last mile on a truck to our customers. This is a little out of date. It says we move 9 million tonnes of aggregate and cement a year. It's actually about 10 million tonnes. Aggregate, cement, We also moved some packed products that you'd find in your Wicks and your B&Qs. We've just finished a project moving tunnel segments by rail for Thames Tideways, so it's kind of all sorts of weird and wonderful things that we move around. We have about 30 train sets operating on a daily basis as well, and our average train size is, as you see there, just under 1,500 tonne, and in fact we transport on some trains up to 3,500 tonnes of aggregates over a fairly lengthy distance. So a couple of years ago, in partnership with Rail Forum and a number of other kind of users of rail freight and suppliers of rail freight, we ran a decarbonisation challenge. So we invited companies to come and present ideas to help us decarbonise rail freight. So there are a number of problem statements, and there were some really great ideas came out of it. So I'm just going to take you through a couple of them, and all of these received first of a kind funding to develop them. So the first one there on the left, the Fur and Fray retractable catenary. So a number of people have said already, rail freight is almost exclusive, well certainly for us is exclusively diesel locomotives currently, and in the future in an electrified network, how do you operate in the terminal? We need to get over the centre of the rail wagon to offload that. So as an example, you can see, hopefully on the photo there, you can see a grab reaching into the wagon and taking aggregate out. So if we've got catenary over the centre of the rail line, how on earth do we offload that train? So Fur and Fray had an idea that they used in passenger train workshops, actually, to enable workers to get on top of the train to do maintenance activities. A retractable catenary idea. So they as part of the first of a kind funding, they got the money to go and build a system on one of our sites in Wellingborough, where they could it showed the principle effectively. It wasn't connected to the mainline rail network, that would have cost millions of pounds, but it was a demonstrator that showed that we could build that into a rail terminal, get access to the rail wagon, offload it, and then bring it back over for the train to pull out again. So that was one kind of great idea that came through this. Another one there, I guess this is probably in circular economy actually, because Meteor Power came up with an idea of converting 08 shunt locomotives, which have been around since the 50s, to battery electric. So if you think about it, most of the locomotive on that picture there is, solid metal. It's going to last for 100 years. Nothing's wrong with it. They've taken the engine out and they've put a battery and an electric motor in there. Gives it a second lease of life. Potentially, you're not going to talk another 50 years, are you? But potentially you've added another 20 years onto that asset. It's a really cost-effective way of doing it. So there's a couple of really good ideas there. And then the third one that I just wanted to run through, Meteor Power again. At the moment, we have our freight trains are relatively dumb. They've got a diesel locomotive on the front. They've got a bunch of wagons on the back, which are not intelligent in any way, shape, or form. We've begun to get some GPS tracking on them, but that's pretty much where we're at. They are just big lumps of metal, and very little has changed probably in the last 30, 40 years in terms of the technology with rail wagons. So taking kind of the concept about recovering energy during braking, which you'd get in Formula 1 cars, I mean, I've got it on my car now, the guys came up with a solution where they're collecting that energy in hydraulic cylinders and then giving it back to the train when the train wants to pull away. So the reason that's great is currently it takes about 100 litres of diesel to pull a freight train away from standing each time, on top of the normal kind of base load of the engine. So as an example, we have a freight train that goes from Swindon to Swindon, which is, Swindon Quarry with an E, Swindon, which is near Skipton, actually in North Yorkshire. That goes twice a day to Leeds with aggregate for construction. It stops en route about 4 times. It's only 38 miles, it stops en route 4 times. So there's 400 litres there potentially of fuel saving just on that one train that we could save from this. 400 litres of fuel is about a tonne of carbon dioxide emitted to the atmosphere. We have 2 of those trains today on one wagon set. So it's potentially a real emission saver and a cost saver for the industry. So these are just a couple of ideas that kind of came out of that process. We've now decided to run a kind of a linked scheme. We're running a scheme which we're calling Freight Terminal of the Future. So again, a bit like I said with rail wagons and locomotives, technology hasn't changed that much. And this actually came about from a conversation I was having with Steve Ball of DB Cargo on Friday afternoon while we were just having a chat about something completely different. And we had a bit of a moan that actually if you took someone from the 1960s, if you took a rail shunter from the 1960s and put them in a rail freight terminal, they'd probably ask why everybody was wearing orange, and then they'd just crack on and do the job. Not a lot, apart from radios and orange clothes, not a lot has changed since then in our rail freight terminals. So actually, how do we make those key parts of the supply chain fit for the 21st century? So we got together a group of people. It's supported by Rail Forum, Rail Freight Group and the University of Derby. There's us as a freight user in construction, Freightliner, RA freight operator, but also run intermodal terminals. We've got DB Cargo, GB Rail Freight. So with those three freight operators, that probably covers 80%, 90% of rail freight moved on the network today. And we've got Ermova and VTG from a rail wagon perspective. They're rail wagon leases. So we've come up with 4 problem statements. I won't read through them, but one is around the terminal site itself. One is around terminal operations, rolling stock, so wagons, shunt locomotives, mainline locomotives, and then a piece about system integration and connectivity. And then we've broken that down further into 3 key areas of decarbonisation, automation, and digitalisation. Again, I won't go through in detail, but there's a number of kind of key themes that this isn't exhaustive. We're happy to look at anything as part of this programme, but we have, it links in actually very nicely and almost independently of why we're here today. But we've got a number of things that, Maggie spoke about train length being really key in the UK. Well, actually, if you look at a freight train today, there's a whole load of wasted space. So potentially, innovative wagon designs could make that, could effectively kill that dead space and make the train a lot more effective. And then suddenly, can you talk about hydrogen tenders on the back of locomotives and things like that? So there's a whole bunch of ideas there. And then just to say, if you think you've got an innovative idea that and you missed the kick-off session, that's absolutely fine. There's loads more information available on the programme there. We're a whole bunch of suppliers and users of rail freight as part of this group. Every single one of us is able to kind of team up with companies as part of the first of a kind funding applications if we've got suitable bids. And that's me. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, and thanks for showing off some of our favourite case studies. Not that we have favourites, obviously, but some of our favourites, and really helps to illustrate the opportunities and those potential partner links as well. So do get in touch, and we're going to move straight on to David and Robin from RDG, who are going to talk to us about rail performance priorities.
Thank you. We're delighted to be here today to speak to you about this theme and the exciting opportunities that it presents for us. I'd first of all like to hand over to Dave to talk about the network performance priorities and where they're rooted.
So, the network performance priorities are set up through the Network Performance Board. So the Network Performance Board, NPB for short, because we love an acronym. Basically what it does, encourages collaboration, provides strategic direction, thought leadership, and drives a programme to improve rail network performance outcomes, basically. And then, as a consequence, customer satisfaction with rail services, rail including freight. There are 7 key priorities, or priority challenges actually, which were touched on at the start by Kelvin, and Robin's going to speak about those in the next slide. MPB promotes conversations at regional performance boards, so obviously through the governance it drips down from Network Performance Board, then through the 5 regional performance boards as well. We're looking for innovations to support network rail regions and the operators, and to drive improvements linked into those priority challenges that we touched on. Just touching on the construct of Network Performance Board, hopping around a little bit. But basically it's got MD, level appointments from owning groups, freight, operators, Network Rail regions, as well as observers. So we have the DFT in there, Transport Scotland, and also the ORR. So the fact is, we know the problems that we've got, but we need the solutions, and I think that sums it up perfectly, really. So, Robin?
So we'll dig straight into the priority challenges. We've heard from Dave where they're rooted. I know Kelvin touched on these earlier on, but just to delve into them a little bit more, and we're happy to go into a lot more detail individually if you'd like to know more about them, and we can unpack them. There's a lot of detail that sits behind them, but these are the 7 priority challenges at a high level. They're in no particular order, and priority challenge 1, just to start with, plan resilience and recoverability. That's around the accuracy in the planning, or accuracy and precision in the planning and delivery of our railway. Priority challenge 2, about right traction, right time from depot. That's ensuring that we get the right trains from the depots at the right time, in the right order, in the right consist. And the only analogy I can make for that is if you don't go to bed on time, you won't get up in time, and then you won't make your first meetings of the day, and your whole day will be ruined. It's not a poke at depots. It's as an operator, it's genuinely not. What this is about is that whole system piece of trains need to be on the depot at the right time in the first place to have the necessary work done, servicing, etc., to then have a fighting chance of being out on time in the morning. So it's that whole system piece around what goes on in depots and how we can be really efficient in how we do what we do there. Network response to external events. Again, this is about how we respond as the railway to events that close our infrastructure. How do we, one, get that infrastructure open again in a safe way, and how do we then get trains moving swiftly after that? Priority challenge 4, operating staff availability. That's supporting our ability to ensure again that we have the right numbers of staff in the right place at the right time, and all the processes and systems that can support that to happen. The next priority challenge is perhaps best summed up as a seasonally agnostic railway. There is lots of effort, quite rightly, that goes into providing that, or supporting providing that in autumn, but there are of course 3 other seasons. There are also weather variations, and there are also more climate change variations as well, and how we're looking at all of those to help deliver performance outcomes that when people look out the morning and out of their window in the morning, they can look out, and regardless of the weather, regardless of the season, they can look out and say, I know I can get to where I'm going by rail today because my railway service is so boringly reliable, because it doesn't matter what's going on with the weather, I know I can get there. Priority challenge 6, how do we make more efficient use of the infrastructure for maintenance? And again, what do we need to do to minimise any disruption to both passenger and freight train services, so that we get the appropriate level of maintenance done, so that we don't have in-service failures of our infrastructure, but also that we're not unnecessarily closing the railway to do that, and we're doing the maximum that we can in the time that we have to enable all users of the railway to have the access that they need. And priority challenge 7, I know Kelvin touched on it, it's an interesting one, and it's more around, sometimes that might be clubbed together with another priority challenge to say, well actually it's focusing on this, but it's using this to achieve it. But really, we're really interested to see from you guys how you can come up with stuff that will help us to solve that and provide those enablers that we're really looking for to improve performance outcomes. So, innovations we have lots of.
Thanks, Robin, and thank you for driving. It always helps. So, what do we have a lot of? Well, Robin's already touched on one of the priority challenges is around a seasonally agnostic railway. We do have a lot of stuff that's focused on autumn, adhesion modifiers, railhead cleaners, and at the recent Network Performance Seminar, which is funded through Network Performance Board, we actually had a number of stands actually on those subjects. So we have a lot of apps, but a lot of stuff treats the symptoms rather than actually the causes. It's really important that we actually get to the nitty gritty. A lot of bespoke products that aren't actually aligned to the railway or the mainline railway operation that we're speaking about. So adaptive from rather than creative for the sole purpose of, effectively. So it'd be good to get something that is actually really strongly focused on what we're actually looking for in terms of improvement. And we've got a lot of gadgets as well, a whole load of gadgets, but that focus would be great. Robin.
So perhaps just to energise those priority challenges and bring them to life, stuff that we'd really like to see are stuff that helps the 5 regions and our operators out there on the railway to address the priority challenges. They're all looking at those in the regional performance boards and saying, okay, these are the things that we need to address. They won't all be the same importance to each region or operator as they are at the same time, but perhaps look at how you can help them to address the priority challenges that are most important to them. Perhaps position innovations in terms of how they can both address the priority challenges, but by doing so improve the performance outcomes that our passenger and freight customers experience out there on the network. Yes, we have lots of gadgets, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but perhaps let's also look at what are the processes and other things that can enable things to be done differently to get better performance outcomes. And again, there are a number of things to focus on by way of the priority challenges. Might also be worth bearing in mind that we have a cost-constrained railway. What innovations are there that give us the capability to deliver high-performance outcomes even with the cost constraints that we can and will face? Please look at stuff that's scalable and quickly and cost-effectively roll out across the network. It might not be absolutely everywhere, but please do give that some consideration. And consider how best to offer your innovations as an attractive proposition, given, again, the industry structure that we have and will have or are moving to over the future. You might wish to be mindful that it's not performance professionals, of course, that deliver high-performance outcomes on the railway. It's the drivers, the guards, the signallers, dispatchers, train planners, engineers, and many, many more. And they're not in any order, I promise. So sticking with me, we'd love to chat more to you about the priority challenge areas, to unpack them more and work out what's important for you. And the thinking around network performance as an outcome of the whole system is crucially important to think about in this.
What I didn't do when I introduced myself was tell you what my job title is, but I think it's actually quite critical. And unusually, it actually explains what I really do in a job title. I'm a Network Performance Engagement Manager. So as a result of that, there's 3 of us, and we cover off the whole network. It's quite a big task, really, to cover the whole of the GB rail network, but we do that. We engage at the route level, and we also engage at a regional level as well. So our team on the regional performance boards, and below that are the route performance boards. But of course then there's another level where Robin's at with the MPB members, if you'd like to speak about those, Robin.
So I wonder if we'll get a bit of a reputation as like Ant and Dec or something like that. But anyway, we should always make sure we stand on the right side of one another.
I'm the one with the high forehead.
Oh, I think I'm challenging you there. So Dave and his team engage in the regional performance boards. I'm the Network Performance Portfolio Manager, so I look after the programme of activity that sits within the Network Performance Board, within which we have a number of subject matter expert steering groups that deal with areas such as better operations, fleet engineering, weather management. There are others. And so we are happy to provide, where appropriate, letters of support, also to foster any letters of support that would help by engagement within the routes and the regions, and also to link you up with potential sponsors within the Network Rail routes and regions, and also within freight and passenger operators. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you both. Another, a host really of opportunities there as well. And I really liked the what we would like to see slide. I would love to see more of those. That's incredibly helpful. Thank you so much. We're going to jump straight over to Network Rail now and the opportunities there with Mark Gaddis.
Thank you, Daisy. Good morning, afternoon. Can't see my watch, so it's one or the other. Thanks for the opportunity. Network Rail are supporting about half of the first of a kinds from last year, so we're a big supporter of the programme. And most of them this year, they've all finished successfully, I think, in terms of the Innovate UK, but we are now progressing with a lot of them as well, so that's good news. We're making a real determined effort to try and pull them through. It gets us a certain way there, but not all the way, but we are pushing on. A few slides, but take note of the first one with my email address, because you'll probably need that if you want Network Rail's help and support in any application. couple of things on the first two themes. We have lots of engineering plant, whether that's big diesel engines pulling our stone blowers, tampers. It's a shame that we're not covered in the scope of this, but whilst you're addressing the freight locos, there's something in the background there that you could roll on to Network Rail. We have big plant, not to mention our road rail vehicles, our diesel gensets, all of those sorts of things. So there's a potential market following on from what you're doing in theme 1. Theme 2, rail freight. You wouldn't think it's really Network Rail's area, but most of those things I've just put up on the board there, we have an interest in. We have a rail freight team. So I think when you're talking to people like Maggie and her team, you will also need to involve us. Those diesel trains go on our infrastructure. They hurt our infrastructure. So we've got an interest in working together. So don't forget Network Rail, although this isn't necessarily a theme that's directed at us. I guess the third theme is where Network Rail have most of the interest. I've put in smaller text those that I don't think are really our bailiwick here, but we should have an interest in all of the rest. And actually this time round, the themes and the scope has been quite specific, so I'm not going to go into any real challenges apart from a few that have come through from colleagues that fit into those. Come back to me and I will find somebody in Network Rail if you think you've got a solution that would hit some of those fairly specific themes within this particular area. If I did want to look at a couple, then these are some from the suicide prevention guys. I'm going to have to use my glasses to read those out to you, but you can read them as well. We have had more suicides on our network, I believe, this year. It's increasing. It's not actually anything to do with COVID, necessarily, partly due to better reporting, but we do see an increase. So we still have an issue to deal with there. These are a few suggestions from that area of the business. And then a couple more here for you, where we're looking at improving the work we do under possessions. Can we identify lots of different sleepers, lots of different assets, without having to go out and do a manual inspection that's going to take time? Can we put together a module that will help us undertake some of these activities? Now, there is a guy in the audience that came to me with these particular challenges, so Wayne, stick your head up, he's over here. Go talk to him. Hopefully he can explain better sort of things that he wants, and that the rapid response activity, the sort of incidents that we're looking at, that we want to provide a whole set of information to, pulling information from lots of different sources so we're better informed, so we can look at that incident and make a decision as to whether we want to reopen the railway straight away or we do need to go to some further activity. If we get into the process that I would like to go through, the reason I gave you my email address is I will help you find the right person in Network Rail. If you know the right person in Network Rail, great. Please go direct to them, but copy me in, because we'd like to keep a sort of central idea of what's going on, because we can chase and help you. And what we'd like is for people to come back to us with a little form that will tell us exactly what you're going to do. And more importantly, and this came up earlier on, what you're going to deliver. as it's been said earlier on, you have to take on a contract from Innovate UK and deliver what you say you're going to deliver. If you don't tell us what you need from us in order to help you deliver that, or there's a problem in there, you won't be able to deliver it. Then you're going to default on your contract. So if you need our permission to do something, ask us. Sometimes we won't be able to give it because it's too difficult. But you'll need to tell us exactly what you want us to do to help you demonstrate your solution. We've done our best this year, better this year than in previous years, I believe, but there's still things coming up where we think, oh, we didn't realise that because you didn't tell us. So then we're scrabbling around trying to solve it. This is an interesting one. You've got a month to go. And you've got a bank holiday in the middle of that. I'm on holiday for some of that. You'll be on holiday for some of that. There's something called the World Rail Research Congress going on in Birmingham the week of the deadline. So some of my colleagues will be out doing things. It's going to be very busy, very busy. So I'd like to set an arbitrary deadline, the 25th of this month, 20 days away, for you to submit into me this little form, which will tell us what you're going to do, what you think the benefits are for Network Rail, and more importantly, what you need from us in order to help you demonstrate your solution. Because I have to go and find people within the business who may be on holiday, who may be doing other things, that can actually look at that and say, yes, we like the idea, and yes, we will commit to supporting it. Senior individual in the organisation might be delegated down to me, but I'm not going to write a letter of support unless I have that confidence that somebody will give you what you need. So email me, I'll send you the form. I'm not working tomorrow, but I'll try and do it over the weekend, if not later tonight. Get you these forms and give me your ideas, and I will make sure that it goes out to the right people. As I say, if you know the right people, then just copy me in. So that's the form, and there's my email address. Come and give me your card afterwards. Come and chat to me. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. That's incredibly helpful. And there are always really strong links between Network Rail and the First of a Kind programmes. But if anything, this year has got even more Network Rail linked opportunity than ever before. So definitely pick those opportunities up. And we're going to jump now to a train operator perspective, or two train operator perspectives. We're going to kick off with Dan from Southwestern.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Daisy. So, as you can see on the slide, my name is Dan Piner, Senior Innovation Manager at Southwestern Railway, and I joined about 3 months ago to SWR. Just going to emphasise the senior in my job title here, because going back to Kelvin's presentation earlier, I think that qualifies me to give a letter of support, which is great news. Thank you. So next slide, a bit of background about SWR. Who are we? What do we do? Well, hopefully many of you know we are a passenger operator. We're First Group owned, majority of 70%, and also 30% by MTR as well. I've put up a copy of the network map here, just for context really, but we operate the services out of Waterloo in London, down to many locations on the south coast, Bournemouth, Southampton, etc., and also real sort of suburban commuter routes as well, Woking, Surbiton, and a lot of those destinations. But we also run some long distance services down to Exeter, so a real mix in types of services that we operate. We operate around or just over 1,500 services each weekday. Pre-COVID, we were over 200 million passenger journeys per year. That went down to about 40 odd million during COVID, and now we're back up to about just over 60% of that 200 plus million. Around 200 stations, 10 fleet types, which makes things a little bit complicated, but an interesting issue that we have. A mixture of both diesel and third rail, 5,500 employees, lots of people. I'm still trying to get to know about 5,498 of them. And really interesting here, the island line. So on the Isle of Wight, we operate the services down there. I mention this because we're trying to use this as a bit of a test bed for innovation. We're calling it the Innovation Sandbox location. And we also not just run the services here, we also manage the infrastructure on the island line. So I think that's a really interesting opportunity for partnering with SWR. So, first of a kind 2022, what are we thinking about? Firstly, I want to say that we're taking a collaborative approach to first of a kind this year. So working really closely with our other sister TOCs in the First Rail group. So GWR, Avanti West Coast, TransPennine Express, Lumo and Hull Trains. Put a QR code at the bottom here, which I'll come back to at the last slide as well. But this links through to a form that we're asking potential suppliers to submit, very similar to one that Mark referenced from Network Rail. So this is an online form where you can submit some details about the proposal that you have, and we will review that collaboratively as a group of TOCs, or first group TOCs, and then we can get back to you with our feedback, whether it's something to proceed with. And I should also say we're hosting a Dragon's Den style event, perhaps less scary, and we also have a lot less money, next week, so very soon. We do still have spaces to do that, to pitch to us. So if that's of interest to you, please let me know as well, and we can talk about whether you might be appropriate for coming along to that event and pitching your idea to the first group talks together. And I should say as well that we are not just looking for submissions that relate to one of these talks. It might be a good opportunity to work with more than one of us. So you might want to partner with ourselves and TransPennine Express, or you might want to partner with GWR and Avanti, for example, and not SWR at all. But this is a great opportunity to get your product or project out into more than one train operator. So, what are our challenges? And this is from a first rail level. So we have put these together from SWR, but also those other TOCs that I referenced in the previous slide. Firstly, reducing disruption and improving experience where it happens. I think that relates quite closely to some of the network performance priorities that we've heard about already. Secondly, sustainability and carbon reduction, or summarised as saving the planet. Thirdly, supporting vulnerable customers, accessible and independent travel, although that's a little less aligned with the first of a kind scope this year. Fourth, customer experience proposition consistency, so giving people what they expect. I think Robin referenced the boringly reliable railway earlier, and I thought that was a really nice quote. I think that's something we should be aiming for, and that's consistency is key. And fifth, should be in bold as well, because it also aligns to the first of a kind scope, but cost efficiency, process improvement, so making things quicker, easier, and more cost effective. So there are our first rail challenges, three of which, 1, 2, and 5 on this slide, really align quite closely with first of a kind this year. As I said, please get in touch with us if those are something that you think you can help with, but also let us know if you think you can help with those other challenges outside of first of a kind as well. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on two of these. So firstly, low emissions and a greener railway, saving the planet. I'm really, really passionate about this. Rail should absolutely be leading the way in making sure we can contribute to saving the planet. We are the green option for long distance travel. We need to be doing more, I think, as an industry to promote rail, and we can really think about what the options are there through this first of a kind funding, although it should be noted, the specifics of the first of a kind funding for this theme are quite narrow, so we need to think about how we can align that. At SWR, we've put together a draft decarbonisation policy. I believe we're the first to submit that to DFT from any of the TOCs. And we have very ambitious net zero plans, and more will be revealed when that policy is published. There's an industry-wide target to remove diesel-only trains by 2040, as set by, I believe it's Joe Johnson a few years ago, and we will be replacing some of our diesel fleet within the next 5 years or so at SWR, so we need to think about what comes next in that space as well. And then final bullet here, I've put some other challenges that we have in this space regarding sustainability and saving the planet. So traction and non-traction in terms of decarbonising those. The supply chain accounts for about 52% of our carbon emissions, so that's a huge issue for us. If we can crack that, then obviously the majority of our emissions will come down generally, but that's a really important aspect for us. Water usage is a really big issue as well, and a challenge that we have, and also thinking about sustainability in the circular economy, so what we can do to be a good green partner and save the planet. Once we've saved the planet, we can think about our network performance priorities, and these are lifted straight from the first of a kind scope, but I can just talk around some of these a little bit more. So firstly, I just wanted to, I'll probably focus on the third bullet point here, which is deterioration in network response to external events, trespass and suicide. This is really, really hot for us at the moment. Had recent very passionate discussions with our head of route security and crime, who really, really wants to make sure that we get some funding through First of a Kind to address this. So we've got really good support internally to try and solve this, this issue. All of these things that I'm discussing today, these are the challenges set. It's your job as the suppliers to come up with solutions. I'm not going to stand here and solutionize, but if you do have potential solutions, please let us know. Operating staff availability, huge issue throughout the industry, at least from a TOC perspective. There's a lot of manual processes out there, lots of traditional processes. We need to be more dynamic in terms of our rostering, for example. What do we do when there's a disruption? How do we make sure the right crew are on the right train if the service is disrupted? So another huge challenge for us. Weather, seasons, climate change, mentioned again by RDG previously, but outside of that autumn season, what can be done to improve in this area? For us, we have a lot of coastal locations. Flooding in the future is going to be a huge issue, something we need to think about in the longer term. But also summer season, winter season, there's a lot of potential areas that we could be looking at here. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about the removal of organisational systemic blockers to deployment of performance initiatives. I think this is a really interesting addition to the First of a Kind scope this year, and it'd be good to, maybe tackle this at a sort of broader level, not just as South Western Railway, or not even just as the first group talks, but is there something that can be done at a wider industry level, and we can be part of that? I think that we could see some interesting proposals in this area, and we would be very keen to be part of those. Final slide from me. So just again to put up that QR code for you to pitch your innovation to us. And if you have a phone that doesn't work on QR codes, then please find me on LinkedIn under my name, strangely enough, Dan Piner, P-I-N-E-R, despite how it gets spelt sometimes. And you can get in contact with me and I can send you the link directly. Just again, I'd like to reiterate, we are open for innovation. We're open to working with suppliers. We are completely open to working with other industry bodies and TOCs and partners as well. So, they don't necessarily have to be first group. Ross, very happy to work with LNER, very happy to work with Network Rail. Let's do what's best for the industry here, and if we can be part of that, we'd be delighted to do so. And finally, another challenge we have, completely unrelated to First of a Kind, is catering. If any of you have solutions to that, please let me know. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Dan. As much as Kelvin and I are still heartbroken that you abandoned our team to go and work for SWR, it is obviously a really good opportunity to link in, not just with them through Dan, but also that entire first group. So, yeah, brilliant stuff. Thanks so much. And Ross is going to bring it home for us now with the LNER perspective and some more top challenges.
Cool. Thank you very much. So I'm very conscious that I'm standing between everyone and their lunch, free lunch, so I will be very quick. I've only got a few slides to go through. I think this first one hopefully captures, I guess, the opportunity that we're putting forward really is, working with, so we're part of DOHL, likewise our Northern, but also as part of the East Coast Partnership, we work very, very closely with Network Rail, so there's a huge opportunity here to work on industry-wide challenges that, where we share very common infrastructure and stations that it's going to benefit the whole of the industry, and you're going to have the opportunity to scale that much quicker. So that's just, I think, a couple of points that I wanted to make around this collaboration piece, and again, through the East Coast Partnership, actually, Network Rail and LNER are tasked, myself, me and my colleague Rob Ford, I don't know if anybody knows Rob, but we've been tasked by the East Coast Partnership to tackle innovation on the East Coast mainline. So please do come to us and come to me with anything like that. But equally, Alistair and Christine are from Northern, who are here today. I don't know where you're sat. Yeah, there they are. They will also be able to speak with you, and yes, similar to Dan actually, and the first group, we're going to be holding not a Dragon's Den, I'm afraid. We're not so cool, I'm afraid. But we'll be taking some of the submissions that we will have received next week, and reviewing them as opportunities to work with yourselves and other suppliers. So some of the challenges I think that I kind of wanted to highlight, again, I don't want to go through the whole list because I think everyone's kind of familiar with them now, but some of the key ones for us, a sustainable railway, train stations, effectively giant wind tunnels. What can we do there? There's got to be an opportunity there. And similar to what Dan was saying is around moving to that circular economy. What can we do with water? What can we do with our waste? How can we reduce waste, recycle more, and just make the whole rail environment a lot greener? We at LNER have our own sustainability targets. One of which is 2 net zero stations by 2025, I think. So that's really coming up quite quick. So anything that can help with that would be great. I'll gloss through them, but I think the third one, from left to right there, efficient depot operations, is a really interesting one. Certainly something that Northern are very interested in. So a little bit of a plug from them, but certainly something from LNER's perspective as well, is that we have set swap issues, which is around, we have various different train formations. And sometimes what we think is coming out of the depot isn't necessarily what we expected. So people's seat reservations, some just often disappear, which is a huge issue for us. And we work really, really hard to try and rectify that. But the root cause is things that come out of the depot. So what innovations can support that depot of the future, and that can be a really quite a broad theme itself. And then obviously finally trespass and suicide, it's a real really big issue for everyone in the rail industry, and it's certainly something that LNER, Network Rail, via the East Coast Partnership and Northern, and I think every other industry partner is very keen to try and mitigate and reduce the impact of these things. So how can you work with us? Again, QR codes. This will link to a different one, I promise. And this is so we can capture, the ideas and solutions that you guys have. I think very, very similar to what Mark has
is sort of requesting via his forms as well is, you know, what's the value you're driving? What are the requirements? I think that's a really, really key one. You know, what do you need from us to make your project successful? So hopefully you've captured that, and look at that, lunchtime. So I'll hand back to Daisy and Kelvin for some closing remarks. So thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Again, really helpful to have those just very clear links, and we all love a QR code now, so, you know, welcome to the future. That is indeed the end of our morning presentations. Thank you so much to all of our speakers. That was absolutely jam-packed, but incredibly helpful. We do have lunch now. We're going to have lunch until about 1:30, and then we're going to have some elevator pitches. Beyond those elevator pitches, the rest of the opportunity into the afternoon is just to network. So please do come and talk to us at KTN at Innovate UK. Please do talk to all of our speakers and everyone else in the room. You'll be hoarse by the time you go home, but I promise it will be worth it. And finally, to those of you who do apply, good luck.
So very nice to see you here. Do I have 3 minutes? Yeah. Okay. So do you start your timing now? Okay.
I'll give you a signal when you've got maybe 15 seconds left.
Right, okay. So I'm Wenjia Wang from University of East Anglia. So my talk is about using AI to help improving your performance of the rail network. Okay, so just about myself, I'm an associate professor in AI. I'm leading a team at the UEA to develop ensemble approach, ensemble methods. So then supported by several grants, including from RSSB and others. All right, okay. And so just give you a quick idea, what is ensemble, right? Okay. So simply speaking, it's not something new. It's just a group of experts you want to put together to solve complex problems. Okay. So in our daily life, sometimes you want to see some consultant, then you don't believe him or her, you want to get second opinion or third. So in that case, you get a group of consultants or experts. They have the knowledge to compensate each other to improve their diagnosis. That's what the idea we have. We want to use the same idea to AI and to deal with a real-world complex problem. So that's why. Okay, so we focus on developing the methods, the methodology for building effective, efficient ensembles. Simply speaking, if you try to combine multiple people together, if they are identical, of course, we do not have identical people. But for AI, for machine learning, it is possible the models, the methods, they produce the same results, they make the same mistake. In that case, no point to combine them because you don't gain anything. So the point is you're trying to select the methods, the techniques, which have complementary knowledge or skills to the other models or techniques you have used. That's the point. That's what we want to do. Okay, so we have applied our method to a number of real-world problems. This is just one of them. It's about the seabed mapping. Okay, so far only 20% of the Earth's ocean has been mapped. Okay, then it's very slow. It's a very costly process. They send a sonar signal down to the bottom. They lost data back. They have to spend a huge amount of time trying to get rid of noise and try to produce a seabed. Okay, so we apply our AI techniques to help them to produce a seabed profile automatically. So here's just a comparison of results. This is from industry software. They have the expertise, so experts to work on it, to operate it. So weeks, days, and weeks. This is our AI results. Okay, so just real time. Okay, this is the result. And also, we have applied our techniques to the trans-operational data problem. And so we got a grant from RSB, try to predict delays and prevent delays. This is our proposed system. And then this is the comparison of results. This line is the individual models. The lines on the top are the ensemble predictions. You can see they are consistently better and more consistent than individual models. Okay. Then another component, one of the components over there, we call the delay explorer. So basically, these components take trans data, trying to find out the relationship between the primary delay and all secondary delays. With this tool, trans controller can see which nodes, which trends are more important to take action to reduce or prevent more delays. For example, this is hunting here, this is free trend. If they do something, they can reduce or prevent delays. All right. So just the last one. So I'm here trying to talk to the people from the domain, from different areas to build some sort of collaborations. Hopefully we can work together to improve the performance of the network rail. Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Fab. Thank you so much. Next up, we've got Emily Kent from One Big Circle. Just to remind our other speakers as well, please make sure you stay near the microphone. Otherwise, our people online can't hear you.
Hi everybody, sorry, I was busy eating lunch and hadn't realised they'd started, so I missed the start. But I think everyone, yes, anyway, everyone's in here now, which is great. Thank you. My name's Emily, I'm from One Big Circle, and we're all about enabling you to see what you need to see, when you need to see it, and where you need to see it. It's all about getting data to you and your colleagues and the industry to make those decisions. Oh, here we go. So we are a Bristol-based SME. We specialise in intelligent video, which, as I said, is about making video data available to you rapidly. And we've got over 120 years' experience in this area, but only 2 years' experience in rail. So we are learning a lot very quickly and hopefully adapting what we do to meet your challenges. We're award-winning specialists in this now, having won some national awards for what we've achieved in the last 2 years. As a team, we have all our hardware and software under one roof, so we're really flexible in how we deliver our solutions and what we do. And from a standing start 2 years ago working in rail, we now have contracts with Network Rail and Transport for Wales. We work with multiple tier ones, a lot of operators as well, capturing video data, and also with the SME supply chain. And we focus a lot on collaborative opportunities as well, so making sure we're working with other experts in their field as well. And we're really proud of the fact that we're increasing safety and improving operational performance. This is Ava, which is our flagship product. It's an end-to-end system that transmits video data from any moving vehicle and makes it rapidly accessible online. And we do that by transmitting the data by 4G. From the images here, you can see that we're on multiple different vehicles, and whether that's a rapidly deployed device on an in-service fleet or something that's deployed permanently in the measurement fleet, it's all about transmitting data and making that readily accessible. And then reports, measurements, any other kind of capability can be delivered on that data as well. Here's an example of some of the data. We can do overhead, forward-facing, track line scanning. We've got some really good, exciting developments in track as well. And we also have our capability on in station environments as well, so we can detect movement, dwell time, and that sort of thing. But what I wanted to demonstrate here is the fact that when you need data, we can get it, and we can certainly deliver on a couple of or at least 2 of these challenges, where it may be about video data in a depot environment or in freight areas, but also in incident management as well. So pulling multiple sources of data together to enable people to respond rapidly and make that a more efficient workflow in response to incidences. So we're here today. One Big Circle would like to meet some industry experts and know the challenges that they're facing. We bring video and data expertise. We have real agility, and we're really robust as an SME. We've proved ourselves through these years. We're technical innovators, so we would like to talk to industry experts who are forward-thinking. You know what your challenges are, and we can help solve them with you. Thank you very much. Come and talk. Thank you.
Well done, perfectly timing it as well. 3 on the dot, well done. Now I'd like to hand over to Pedro Nunez at Atmo Technology Limited.
We do a little swap, but Guy will do it rather than me. But
It's not Pedro, it's Guy.
last minute.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be on site today, but yeah, here I am. It's all good. So, next slide. So to give an introduction, so I'm Guy, CEO and founder of Atmo Technology. We were successful on the first of a kind 21 project. So we led the bid and then in technical partnership with Fraser Nash and University of Bristol. And we worked with Bristol Temple Mead Station and Arriva Train Care. So I'll get into what we do. So our 3 main services are around environmental health and safety, asset optimization, and decarbonisation. So we're very much a data and software company, so we take lots of IoT data streams, we were surprised by how little data is available in rail, and when there is data available, really extracting the value from that. So it's a big part of what we do. So for first of a kind 22, one of the things that we're interested in is decarbonisation. So here, we can get box plots of real-world emissions from assets on site, and if we know what the cost to replace a type of asset is, we can help inform those decisions. An example we did with Bristol Port. You know, looking at 2 different dredging vessels, we had real-world GPS and emissions data from those vessels, and I could talk about this one for about an hour, so I'll have to keep it very short. But we basically were able to identify air quality emissions under different types of activity, which would perfectly transfer over to rail, and we're able to inform that decarbonisation decision. So we want to find low-hanging fruit where you've got large amounts of capex that you want to deploy. We're helping companies take also, for example, with Arriva Trenker, we're helping with multiple sites. We're helping them take a portfolio approach, basically. So comparing different areas of one site with different areas of another site. So if you've got millions of pounds to spend to decarbonise or to improve health and safety or environmental, we can help allocate that funding. So on 1st of kind 21, we looked at GPS and again air quality from vehicles on site. We were able to put extraction system, vibration systems in the extractor fan so we could see when they were on, when they were working, and help optimise our systems as well as other assets. So we're keen to do this with larger assets and companies with larger fleets of vehicles as well. And here's another case study at Hinkley C, the large nuclear construction site, where we're looking at the efficacy of concrete wagons on site. So this was existing data that just wasn't being used. So we do install IoT systems, but if you've got data there, we can just help extract value from those systems. So here we're looking at utilisation. So you can see the concrete wagon on the right was used a lot more than the one on the left, let's say. I'll skip over the next slide because I probably shouldn't have included it. But we're very, very keen to have follow-on conversations. And if you've got large assets or fleets, we're really keen to have a chat. So first of a kind 22, we're going to be looking at GPS and asset optimization. I think there's a couple of themes. So come have a chat. Cheers.
Fantastic, thank you. Next up we have Tony Joy from BCIMO.
Hi there, I'm Tony Joy, I'm from BCIMO, I'm Head of Engineering and Programmes. The BCIMO is the Black Country Innovation and Manufacturing Organisation. That organisation was set up to basically operate the Very Light Rail National Innovation Centre. So this is a brand new facility situated in Dudley, and what is the Very Light Rail Innovation Centre about? It's basically all about innovation in very light rail and cost saving. You know, how can we lower the cost of implementing rail systems in our cities across the country? So that's what it was set up for. We have some unique facilities there for developing technology around this subject. We're looking at developing technology from TRLs 4 to 7, and what we're really looking for is to help you guys demonstrate your technologies. So if you can't do it with Network Rail, you can't do it with a train operating company, there are facilities there that are rail facilities that you can use. This is one of our facilities. It's a big long tunnel, but very useful for developing technologies in terms of having radio transmissions, looking at safety systems, looking at anything to do where you need a big long tunnel. That's just one of our facilities. We have rail infrastructure, so we have a couple of kilometres of rail track. We have the tunnel that I mentioned. We have stations, so we have station infrastructure. So we talked about looking at using digital technologies to monitor people on railway stations. That would be a perfect place for you to test out your technology, develop your technology in a controlled environment. We talked about battery-powered vehicles. Well, we've got a massive rapid charger based on our site, so it could be used for developing charging systems on railway stock. We have a mule vehicle available. We have a very large engineering hall with facilities to maintain, develop, test rail vehicles, and we have a siding. So, as I mentioned, really, we're here to help you demonstrate your technology. And, you know, as a lot of people have talked about, you know, it's all about the demonstration. It's all about the proof of the pudding, and we're here to support that. We can support you as an RTO or subcontract into your project. We obviously cover all the themes. Decarbonisation is an obvious one with our battery charging, but all the themes that we cover. We're open for business. We want to see you. We want to show you our facilities. So we've set aside 2 days on the 13th and the 20th of May for you to come and visit, to look at our facilities, look at our buildings, look at what we can offer to you. If you can't come on those days, we can, you know, make a different arrangement and hopefully support you in the future. So just to finalise things, so we are BCIMO. I'm Tony Joy. Please contact me or my colleague here, Naomi over there. Hi, Naomi. Who is our SME business advisor who supports SMEs and using our facilities. So thank you for your time.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And now we'll move on to Pluvo with Matteo Macario.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. So I'm CEO of Pluvo, and we'll briefly go into our solution and what we're looking to do in rail. So while CO2 is getting a lot of shine, we shouldn't forget about the other harmful things we have in our air, such as particulate matter and NOx. These have a lot of scary stats, being called the new tobacco or new smoking by the World Health Organization a while ago. And obviously this is something that rail is well aware of. So our simple mission is to create healthier spaces for both people and the environment. We do this with a three-pronged approach. So our first product, the Pluvo column, which you see there, creates local air, clean air zones, which help protect people from the harmful pollutants that reside in these hotspots. The second bit is that it's a very visual product, so you can use the spaces, these screens, to help educate and engage and inform the public about the importance of air quality. And finally, internally, there's also air quality monitoring in each unit, which helps inform policy makers or decision makers about the sources. Just like Atmos alluded to, this data can lead to powerful decision making. So we have a 3-tier air scrubbing system within each unit. This is cutting edge technology that we've customized for our units, and it attacks, again, focusing on particulate matter, harmful oxides like NOx and SOx, and then also effective at killing viruses. We won the Innovate UK Smart Grant 2 years ago now, and had a successful trial with our partners Lansec and Savills out in North London. These are indicative results, but about a 13-meter distance away, essentially where that lamppost with the A is, we saw a 22% reduction in harmful gases and anywhere from 60 to 70% on particulate matter. So that's a bit of like a worst case scenario because you're out in the open. Now we're looking at more enclosed, semi-enclosed spaces, such as rail stations. And our early computer simulations have shown that where you see the dark green, we could reduce air pollutants by over 25% for about 3/4 of a platform that's 150 meters long. As I alluded to, we have smart sensing inside each of these IoT devices and air scrubbers, so both inlet and outlet. So the device itself can sniff the local air pollution, decide whether or not to turn itself on, and it's constantly sending that data up to the cloud, which means we can also provide feedback and custom dashboards to our partners. And the other part is this could actually generate revenue for you. So if we were to get sponsorship or even lean into the out-of-home advertising side of things, we can use the displays on the outside to actually become revenue generating for these assets, meaning that you can subsidize the clean air service we provide with the actual ad revenue or sponsorship revenue that comes through. Most excitingly, we've been talking with Network Rail for quite a while, and looks like we're on track to have our first commercial trial at a station not far from here, which we're very excited about. And so just to wrap up, we think we have a strong value proposition both for creating a healthier rail environment for both employees and passengers, and convincing people back to the sustainable way of traveling, which is rail. And we're looking to get in touch with more people within the rail industry and multimodal transport, because we think transport hubs could really use something like this. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to hand over to Dr. Jeremy Howard-Knight from Carno, or Carnot. You can tell us.
Carno.
Carno.
Well, good afternoon. My name's Jeremy. Unlike my namesake, I don't have a big pot of cash sitting idly by waiting for other people to tap into it. So I'm here to look to all of you as potential partners and collaborators in bringing our technology to market. So I'm here to talk about Carno engines and what we believe will be the future of sustainable powertrain technology for heavy-duty applications. Carno was formed by technology experts to help tackle the trillion-dollar problem of decarbonising industry, transport and power sectors. To do this, we are developing zero-emission ceramic combustion engines capable of accelerating the transition to net zero and bringing clean, affordable and secure energy to all. Everyone is aware of the current and planned future legislation to reduce carbon emissions to net zero by 2050. Unfortunately, heavy-duty, long-haul and off-grid sectors have no net zero-ready technologies available and are looking likely to feel the pinch of potentially 100 billion annual carbon tax penalties in the near future, which will impact already tight margins in these sectors. So what are the current options for these markets? I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I'm conscious of time, but obviously we've got the conventional status quo of conventional engines, which have significant problems in terms of low efficiency and life cycle emissions. Battery technology do solve the emissions issue and are great for light-duty, short-range applications, but they are currently far too heavy, costly and slow to recharge. Fuel cells have very similar problems, and for all hydrogen-only technologies, there is the additional problem of expensive green hydrogen, and it's even more expensive infrastructure requirements, as well as volume for mobile applications. Really the best solution here would be a clean and efficient engine operating on a low to net zero high density fuel, which is what we are working on here at Carno. We are developing the world's most efficient low to net zero fuel agnostic powertrain. Our ceramic engine technology allows us to eliminate the need for traditional engine cooling systems that are the biggest driver for inefficiencies in modern engines, and enables us to achieve a groundbreaking 70% efficiency. In addition, our design means that our technology is fuel agnostic, so our engines can operate on not only hydrogen but other net zero fuels as well. During our development work thus far, we have discovered that operating on a hydrogen and ammonia fuel blend, our powertrains can already operate at lower cost per kilowatt hour than traditional diesel today, and with NOx emissions below California standards. We have already secured funded partnership development projects in both marine and mining, and these projects are now working towards application trials. We are also working within the NatWest Accelerator in partnership with the WMG to approach the automotive sector. Which leaves us with rail and the purpose of me standing in front of you today. We are open to discussions with any and all parties within the rail sector in relation to the integration of our technology and development toward rail-specific use cases. We have major industry, government and academic backing, including University of Oxford, UK Net Zero Technology Centre and Fraunhofer, the world's leading research institute for ceramics, to name but a few. And with a well-developed team with expertise ranging from startup commercialisation to F1 and aerospace. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to opportunities to discuss further.
Fantastic, thank you. Next up we have Stephen Collicott of Rail Business Daily. There he is.
Hi there, thank you very much. I haven't got slides to show you, so hopefully it's really quick and simple. Is our proposition Rail Business Daily, where media within rail. So we have 2 magazines, we have 2 different platforms for getting your message out there. We've got a community of companies that you can ask silly questions of, that you can come to and join in. And then we've got the advisory business, which I look after. And that's really to help companies understand their transition, or to shorten the transition journey to commercialisation. So hopefully what you've heard a couple of times is, can we realise the benefits case? Can we get it in front of the right people? Can we get it in front of the supply chain? Well, our daily magazine goes to 73,000 inboxes in rail. We had over 10 million hits to our website. So whilst we've got the communication methodology for commercialisation, really it's, you know, use us, come and use us to help understand what that commercialisation opportunity might look like during and after the submissions, and use our network to be able to define what some of those benefits might look like. Please, we're here to help. Thank you very much.
Short and sweet, I like it. Next up, we have Emily and James from Junction.
Hello, yeah, I also don't have some slides, so it'll be nice, short and sweet. So a bit of background, I'm Emlyn from Junction. We help to keep the railways running on time and improve customer experience. Over the last couple of years, we've successfully delivered 2 Innovate UK projects. First of all, one being with LNER, Decision Support Tool, helping operators to more effectively manage disruption using AI. And then the second one was with South Western Railways, and we've kind of a follow-on project from the Decision Support Tool of improving customer information in disruption. And kind of what I want to talk to you about today is a requirement in the next Innovate UK first of a kind 2022 competition is you need to evaluate the impact of your system, of your solution, and I think with our decision support tool we collect a huge amount of data on performance, analytics, and the impact on systems on the railway. So it'd be interesting to have a conversation with you about how we could potentially help you measure the impact of your system as part of the requirement for Innovate UK. Yeah, happy to talk. I'll be just at the back. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. And we have Mike Edwards up next from Meteor Power. I'm afraid I don't even have a holding slide for Mike. I am so sorry. I'll make it up to you, I promise. But you can at least come and have a conversation.
I'm surprised I'm the only one that actually brought my own electric vehicle today. I'm Mike Edwards from Meteor Power. You obviously don't have any slides, but you'll have seen this mentioned a couple of times on the tarmac presentation earlier. We produce battery electric and battery hybrid powertrains. We've currently put them in 08 shunters and Class 37 mainline locos. We also developed, as part of the last first of a kind project, the hydraulic energy recovery and storage system, basically to allow the wagons themselves to propel themselves away from standstill, taking a lot of the strain off the locomotive and reducing the power requirements and obviously the emissions. Now, our plans for the next first of a kind competition are to take that a step further, which is to have fully powered wagons. So whether that's a pure electric wagon or an electric hybrid wagon, it means that the wagon can do the driving. The locomotive itself doesn't have to do much work, so you can get away with having much smaller, lighter locomotives. The wagon itself will do the hard work, and when you're shunting around a quarry, for example, the wagon will be able to move on its own, so you won't even need shunters in place. So that's our plan. If you've got any questions or any interest, please come and find me. Thank you. I'll try not to run you over.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our elevator pitchers. It does conclude them for today. Please do stick around, have a conversation with our pitchers. They've obviously got some really fantastic both offers in both directions, offers to support you with your bids and their own bids that they're seeking partners on. So please do stick around, have another tea and coffee, have some conversations. Remember that we at Innovate UK KTN are also here to help, so get in touch with me. And all that remains to be said is thank you so much for coming and good luck with your bids.